It is a journey through the Bible with Mukhwana Isaac, and I want to thank you for keeping track. Yesterday, we saw Israelites at Meribah complaining lack of water. God asked Moses to do the needful, and he did it. We now look at the covenant at Sinai and God's plan for Israel. In freeing the children of Abraham from the slavery of Egypt, God made them into a people under the leadership of Moses. In making the covenant of Sinai with them, God solemnly made them his people. The whole future of Israel depended on and followed from this event. For the history of Israel is, as we so often call it, the history of the Old Covenant, the Old Testament. The covenant which God made with Israel was the aim towards which the history of the Israelites had so far led, and it would be the source from which all their future would flow. It was the central point to which the people needed to return by remembering it and all its details if they were to remain faithful to their calling. The day would come when the Messiah would make a new covenant. But of course, the covenant of Sinai was a necessary preparation for it. What does this covenant mean among the Hebrews? To the Hebrews, a covenant was an agreement or a contract which united two people or groups of people by a sacred act. The covenant brought them rights and duties. Yes. And so, in making a covenant with the Israelites, God was doing something which they understood, for it was part of their tribal life. He didn't do something outside what they knew. And so, at the same time, the Israelites understood that God, in making a covenant with them, was doing something serious and important as a sign that both parties accepted to make a covenant that Israelites used to perform special covenant ceremonies. You see, I used to hear, but actually I hear that there are still pacts where two people come together. This one, it's called the blood pact. You cut yourself, the other one cuts, and you mix your blood. That our blood has mixed, and what have you? So, but for us in the Catholic faith, as believers, the pact we do is holy matrimony. The two becoming one. Christ poured the blood, so I don't see reason as why we should pour blood. You cut yourself, and no. You see, that one is not it's not encouraged totally. So we see this as a serious thing, a pact. So God also makes a pact with the Israelites. So God's covenant with his people at Sinai. This is what he says in Leviticus chapter 26 verse 12. I will be your God, and you shall be my people. On Sinai, God offered to make a special covenant with the Israelites. That is, to unite himself with them by being their God and by making them his nation. Exodus chapter 19 verse 3 to 6 tells us in God's words what the agreement was that God wanted to make with Israel. And Moses went up to God, and the Lord called him out of the mountain, saying, Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the people of Israel, You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, therefore, if you will obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my own possession among all peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be with me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak to the children of Israel. God's part of the covenant was to be Israel's God and to make Israel his people. As we read also in the book of Leviticus, chapter 26, verse 12, and I will walk among you and will be your God, and you shall be my people. Israel's part of the covenant was to obey God and make everything he said, keep the commands of his covenant. And Moses gave the message to Israel, and the whole people agreed. And the people answered together and said, all that the Lord has spoken, we will do. Exodus chapter 19, verse 7 to 8. And so the agreement, actually this covenant of Sinai, is described in the Bible as if it were a similar to the agreements which nations at that time used to make among themselves. Weak nations would ask for the protection of the king of a stronger nation. The latter would have an agreement written down, and the weaker nation would accept it, and in this way promise loyalty and obedience to the king. This agreement started with the king's name and praise of his greatness. Then would follow an account of the past relations between the king and the weaker nation, stressing especially the king's kindness and concern. The king would then give his commands to the nation, asking his protection. He especially forbade the nation to deal with other nations. The document of the covenant would be put in the temples of the nations concerned and read on great feasts when large crowds of people had gathered. That the covenant of Sinai should be made in this way shows us what the Israelites understood about their covenant with God. God was their king. They were the weak nation. He had chosen to unite himself with them and to protect them. And so his choice of them called for an answer from them. And their answer was to accept his will. Just as the covenants between nations at that time, talk about 1250 BCE, the covenant of Sinai also was written down. And so in it, God gave his name at the beginning of the Ten Commandments, Exodus chapter 20, verse 2. I am the Lord your God. The great things he had done for them and care he had shown them were clearly stated. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Chapter 19, verse 4. So God also, just as the kings of that time gave his commands, they were the 10 commandments and many other laws which can be found in the book of Exodus, the book of Numbers, the book of Leviticus, and Deuteronomy, reaching 613. Yes, but especially just like weak nations of that time, God forbade his people to go to other gods, that is, idols or kings, for help. You shall have no other gods before me. And people have done European history. European history has this very clearly well stated, how nations, how kings, how countries used to go for help from other kings. And we see Nebuchadnezzar being powerful, that is CRI paper 1 Old Testament, and many other things. I have been Mukhwana Isaac with a journey through the Bible. Thank you. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed.